You want to be a wide reader, but you don't know where to start. I'm going to show you some different recommendations. I'm going to show you some books in all of the genres that I read and why I think they're going to be good beginners for these genres. So I'm going to go through, like I said, all the genres that I read, and it's how my bookshelf is also organized because I do it by genre. I do it by genre and then I do it by author. So the different genres I've got one, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight, nine genres we're gonna go through. So I've got about 3 books from each genre and why I think they're good beginner books for these genres, like a dip your toe into the genres. So the different genres are, I'm going to list them first and then dive right into the first one. I've got nonfiction, classics, lit fic, which is just general fiction. And I also put historical fiction in there because I don't read enough lit fic or historical fiction to have those genres of like each of those genres represented. So apologies for that. I also have romance, mystery, horror slash thrillers. Um, Actually, it's more mystery slash thrillers and then horror. Uh, Romantasy, fantasy, and sci-fi. I am splitting sci-fi and fantasy into two because I'm starting to read more of the genre, so I'm able to better identify, I feel like, the different genres. So I'll start with the first one. We're going to dive right into the one that I read the least, which would be nonfiction. So I own 2 books that I'm going to show you, but I also have one that I'm going to recommend that was on that I listened to on Libby. When you're going into something that is nonfiction, I think the single most important thing is to remember that it's going to be nonfiction. Like I don't know how else to say it. Like if you're not interested in the topic, you're not going to read the book. So I, for example, have no interest whatsoever in the sport cricket. So I'm not going to go pick up a book about cricket. That's just not happening. So I think the same thing should be true for you if you're going to try to dip your toe into nonfiction. So I've got 2 here plus a third that I don't physically have. The first one is Somebody Else's Kid by Tori Hayden. So I am a teacher. I have a degree in special education. This is a book from the perspective of a teacher in the 70s, a special ed teacher in the late 70s. Um, I I honestly don't remember too much specifically about it, but I do remember it making an impact on me for for sure it did. Just because this is when they still did like home visits to the families. That doesn't happen anymore, not that I'm aware of at least. Um, but it's they're not just somebody else's kid. That's the whole point of this. She is trying to get teachers to understand, or parents or administrators, whomever, to understand that when teachers go into the classroom, it's not just somebody else's kid. They become their kid. You love every kid that you teach. And this was just so good. But it was also very personal to me and what I'm interested in. And it's my degree. It's my life now. I am a teacher. This is my life. So this was really moving to me. And that's why I thought for me it was a good nonfiction beginner because it relates directly to my life and how I live my life. So find something that interests you. That's my recommendation. Another one is just something that's generally interesting. I also read this one in college, actually, way before I read Somebody Else's Kid. This one was at my college, they'll do like a book of the year. It's usually nonfiction or something like with a big moral that they're going to use throughout the classes. So I think this was my freshman year of college too, my very, very first college experience. I think it actually was. Um, this book was so interesting. It's a memoir about a man, his name is Brando Skyhorse, whose mother raised him. Let me make sure I have got it correct here. It's a boy with 5 stepfathers. It was a mother who's determined to give her son everything but the truth, meaning um, he lives his life believing that he is Native American, but he's not. He finds out later in life that he's not, and everything in his life has been a lie. And this is his memoir, and like learning that and how to come to terms. I don't even know if he fully came to terms. I'm gonna have to reread this because this was so interesting to me. If I remember correctly, he's actually Mexican, not Native American. But his mom just thought it was so much more interesting if her son was Native American, which is gross to. Ugh. Okay, anyway, it was such an interesting read. Like there are parts of this that are still super vivid in my mind. So find something that you're interested in. Find something that's crazy. Memoirs, if they're taking the time to write a memoir, unless they're famous, caveat to my next book. Unless they're famous, memoirs usually aren't that interesting to me. This was crazy interesting. And then the third one that we'll have here, I actually just finished it a couple days ago. Jeanette McCurdy's I'm Glad My Mom Died. That was heartbreaking, first of all, but also another fascinating one that, I mean, it's my childhood. I grew up watching iCarly. I grew up watching Jeanette McCurdy. I like I still haven't been able to bring myself to watch the Nickelodeon. I can't remember what it's called, but the documentary they did. But that book was brutal, and I listened to it on Libby. I don't think I could have actually read the book. I think I had to read it. I think I had to listen to it. But the thing about reading in general, but also especially if you're going to step outside of your comfort zone and read something that's maybe you don't typically read or a new genre to you, find something that piques your interest. Find something that you think will hold your interest through the whole book, so you have the stamina to keep going. These books did that for me for nonfiction. I have the Radium Girls that I'm halfway through. I don't know if I'm ever going to finish that one because it's just so heartbreaking to me. So be careful with what you're picking up too. I also, like, I think earlier today, John Green's Everything is Tuberculosis came in on my Libby. So I will be listening to that soon. I'm very excited for that. I love John Green. But anyway, nonfiction. Find something that's interesting to you. I will say until I'm blue in the face. If it's not interesting to you, especially in nonfiction, you're not going to keep reading. So if you want to step out of your comfort zone, if you want to tiptoe into a different genre, fuel that interest. Now, the next genre I'm going to go into are the classics. I played a little bit of a different strategy for this one. Less so, I do think interest is very important. If I'm not interested in something, I tune out so fast. So still make sure it has a storyline or a plot or a character or something you think that will keep you going through the book. But I also went with classics, something that's easy to read, like it's got really good readability and also not very long. Because with a classic, I'm reading Crime and Punishment right now. I've been reading it for a while. I'm enjoying it, but it is long. Um, like Don Quixote is like way up there on my list. I really want to read it, but it's a brick. Same thing for East of Eden. Same thing for what is this one? Count of Monte Cristo. Those are classics that I do plan on reading in the near future, but they're not short books. And some of these, like, my gosh, I just opened and saw the text of that. Wow. This is not beginner classics. I am glad I didn't start with Don Quixote because I don't know if I'd be able to keep my attention the whole time. I'm hoping I'm wrong about that. But if I were to just dive right in, it's my first classic. I think it would have ruined the genre for me. If I'm being so honest, I think it would have ruined the genre because I don't think when I started rereading again. So when I graduated college in 2021, if I were if I were to pick this up in 2021, I would not have finished it. I would have DNF'd it. I would have said I'm going to keep reading it, but it was a DNF. I don't think I would have finished it. However, I did read To Kill a Mockingbird. This was my first classic since starting to read again. This was a great decision. It's easy to get through. It's got themes that I care about. Um, it's through. It's one of my favorite books in general. I love this book. I am going to reread it and retab because those tabs are atrocious to me. I don't like it. Sensory, not great. But this was a good one because it's easy to get through. It's not very long. It's easy to understand. Like the symbolism isn't way over my head, and it's just a good book. So, To Kill a Mockingbird, I think, is a great one if you want to start reading classics and you don't know where to begin. To Kill a Mockingbird is a good one. The Great Gatsby is another one. It's very similar to this. The symbolism is really easy to pick up on. The themes are easy to get to understand. I also think it's a really good way to start on criticism. To like, there's a reason they teach in high school and all throughout college. It's really easy to read, really easy to understand, easy to get to the themes of the story, and it's not long. I think it's under 300 pages. I'm pretty sure it is. Let me think. Let me think. Let me think. Oh, dude, it's like under 200 pages. I think it's like right at 200 pages. Yeah. So this is a good one too. I love Fitzgerald. I love his writing. I love his. I'm a big author perspective kind of person. I love reading about authors' lives. Like Tolkien is a person that I love to read about his life. Fitzgerald had such an interesting life. Like I don't know if I would have been buddies with him. I don't think I would have hung out with Fitzgerald, but he had a really interesting life. Um, Same thing for Hemingway. Although Hemingway is not going to be on this list, partially because I I want to reread Hemingway, but the last time I read him, I didn't like it that much. But I think I'm gonna like him more now that I've started reading more widely. I'm gonna try him again. But the last one I have is Of Mice and Men by Steinbeck. Another short one, another really easy to read. I love the simple truth that is Steinbeck's writing. And this one is under 100 pages. I did mention East of Eden earlier. It's somewhere here. Here. Yeah, East of Eden. This is East of Eden is having a renaissance right now, and I'm swept up in the hype. I'm going to read it. I'm very excited about it. I want to join that hype. But it's thick, it's big, and you've got to go on the journey with him. This one is a journey, and it is a great journey. I love this book, but it's not as long. So I think it's another one where it's good to dip your toes in and start building up. Um, all three of these, they are American classics. They're all based in America, about America. So if you're going more British classics, Pride and Prejudice is always going to be on the list for me. That's English. Little Women is American, but the language is old enough that I think it would still fit that vibe of you're trying to push yourself a little bit more. And both of those, I've read them both multiple times. They both are great classics, but they're a little bit longer. And the language in Pride and Prejudice, Jane Austen in general, just because it's Regency era Britain, it's a little bit, you have to focus a little bit more. So if you wanted an easy read into classics, this is probably where I would start personally. But yeah, moving along. My table's going to be full by the end of this, I can tell. Nonfiction, and then we did classics. Now we're going to do litfic or literary fiction. So again, this is literary fiction. It's also a little bit of historical fiction because I just put it all in one genre. But I would start if you want something quick, a quick read. I read this in I think a day, maybe 2 days. This is The Last House on Mingo Street by Sandra Cisneros. Cisneros? Forgive me, of not that pronunciation. I've never actually heard it out loud. But this is a very much not day in the life, but it's a character study book, and it's just somebody living a girl as she grows up on Mingo Street in Chicago. It was really good. It was a really quick read. I really enjoyed it. It's very moving. I want to reread it. I think it's another short one. I don't read a lot of short books, so this is me like, oh yeah, maybe I'll read it again. 110 pages. A great lit fic, great character study book. So for me, you can be a plot reader or you can be a character reader. I'm a character reader. So this is going to grab my attention because it's character reader and her experience in her life. And that's pretty true for all of these, honestly. All of the books that I've done so far. I think that's why I like memoir so much. Or if I'm doing nonfiction, I will read a memoir. But anyway, Last House on Mingo Street, it's quick, it's short, it's something that we can easily digest, but also I feel like it's impactful. I mean, it's been around for a while, so there you go. This one was just fun. Where the Crawdads Sing by Delia Owens. This one is lit fic but mystery. It was kind of between the two, but I went more with fiction for um but this is a good one if you're stepping out of your comfort zone and into like a different genre. You've got the mystery to keep you going. You've got it's another great character driven story. I really loved our main character, and Marsh Girl is what that's what they call her. But I really like Kaya Clark as a character. I think she's a really interesting character, a really heartbreaking story, but a good story. I loved this book. I read it with my friend before we watched the movie. Like, yeah, it's great. I loved it. I don't know what else to say. It's a great one to get you into if you usually read. I wouldn't call it a thriller. It's definitely not a thriller, but if you usually read mysteries, it's a good it's good like little tiptoe over into literary fiction and character study. Um, this is one of my favorite books ever. It is also not super long. The Wishing Game by Meg Schaefer. This one is for the fantasy girlies. That's me. Hello. So if you're typically a fantasy reader and you want to try a different genre, I think The Wishing Game is the perfect place to start. It has no fantasy whatsoever in it, but it is about a woman. She's a teacher in California, and she enters. I think it's like she enters this raffle or she wins this competition to go to this island that is the setting of her favorite childhood series. Her childhood series is a fantasy series. It makes me think of oh my gosh, I read it all the time. The Magic Tree House. It makes me. It's like Magic Tree House adjacent. That's kind of what this this series was that she read as a kid, and she reads now to her students. There's one student in particular, a boy that she wants to adopt. That's her big motivating factors that she wants to win this competition so she can earn the money to adopt this little boy. I loved every second of this book. Another good character story, I think, personally, but it's also fun. It's also, it takes on some really heavy topics, but I feel like in a manageable way. I just loved it. It's making me want to reread these books again. Oh my gosh. But if you are typically a fantasy reader and you like that whimsical aspect, this has a whimsical feeling, but also it's very real. Like it's very realistic too. I loved this book. So, lit fic, literary fiction. Another good one that's not on. No, actually, I'm not even going to bring that one up because it's not. I don't think it's intro. So forget about it. Here we go. From there, we're gonna go into romance. Now, I'm going to be super honest about my romance experience. I don't think you're going to find many hard hitting, emotionally life changing books in all of the books that I've read. I've read quite a few books in my lifetime, and I do read a decent ish amount of romance. I don't think it's going to be your groundbreaking. This could just be my experience, it could just be me. There are two authors in particular that have connected to me in that way in romance, and that's it. That's all. Everything else is like this floofy, fun, light read. So I would personally, oh, I feel so bad because there's so many people I think that do get more out of romance than I do, but I think I just think of them as rom coms. Honestly, they're light, easy, breezy reads, and they're good palate cleansers for me. So that's my, I guess, advice. Like, don't well, that makes me feel so bad. Don't hate me if you're a romance reader. I do enjoy romance. I have a lot of romance. It's actually getting, my collection is getting bigger. But I'm going to start with my most recent romance read, and also it's so fun. I read The Bodyguard by Catherine Center. This was so much fun. Not super groundbreaking, not like a super emotional read. It was just fun. It was a fun book. Um, so he's this famous actor guy. What's his name? Jack Stapleton. He's a famous actor and has a stalker situation going on, so he needs a bodyguard. She's the bodyguard. It was such a cute little read. Again, not life changing, but fun. If you just want, I read it in like 2 days. If you want a quick, breezy, fun read, this this is a good one. I loved it. Another quick breezy fun read that I read in about 2 days was How to Write a Love Story. This one was a really good one. Again, if you're usually a fantasy reader like I am, he's a book editor. She is the daughter of a really famous author, fantasy author. It makes me think it's kind of like the Wheel of Time. If you're familiar with the series Wheel of Time, the author Robert Jordan, he died before he could finish the series. So Brandon Sanderson actually finished the series. This is a similar situation. Her dad died before he could write the last book in the series, so she's going to write the last book, and he's going to be the editor for it. It was so cute. It was so fun. I loved it. Another quick breezy read, but so much fun. Now, I said all of that about how we feel, how I feel regarding romance and the depth of romance. I've never really felt too much depth in a romance. Um, the exception to that rule, 100,000%, is Emily Henry. I love Emily Henry because she writes real characters. Like these, they're a little bit caricature of people. Bodyguards aren't a typical job. How many movie stars do you meet? Editors and writers, they're kind of in their own world. I know they're, they're kind of a fantasy in themselves. They're fun books with good people. Like I'm not saying that editors and writers aren't real people. Obviously, I'm not saying that. But these just feel Emily Henry has a really good job is really good about writing real people, people that I feel like I could meet on the street. Now, the first book I'm going to pull up is about two authors. So, what I said about here, it's just there. She writes them different here. This also, I really like Emily Henry because she takes on heavy themes. Like this one is about grief. Her dad just died, and she has to clean out his beach house. And it's just, I'm gonna have to reread my Emily Henry now because this was my first Emily Henry book, and I'm really glad I started here. But because I'm such a huge Emily Henry fan, I couldn't choose just one book. This is a great one, and it takes on the topic of grief, but there's also a romance to it. Happy Place. I have talked about Happy Place so much to a couple of my friends because it's a group of three women. There's one main character. It's Harry, Harry, but it's a group of three friends that really reminded me of my like ugh, just I loved this book, and it's also about acceptance and parental expectations, societal expectations, um, and being okay with who you are. I just thought it was great. So heavy themes, real characters, fun little like it is a fun summer vacation for them. Slash wedding. One of the two of the friends in their friend groups are getting married. Or one of the guys and one of the girls in their friend group of six. There's three guys and I don't remember. There's a wedding going on, okay? Um, and then Book Lovers is one of my favorite romance books of all time. I just love it more. They're both editors. This is basically like the reverse of a Hallmark book, a Hallmark movie. Instead of big city girl goes to small town, falls in love with small town girl boy. It's big city girl goes to small town for her sister, desperately wants to get back to the city. So she's like the evil ex in all of the Hallmark movies. I loved this book. And this is another one where like familial responsibilities, like how do you live your life? How do you choose what you want if what you want is so different from what your parents want or what your family wants or what your family needs? It's another heavy thing, but it's just so good. And I really related to the main character in this one. I really 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 related to Nora, and I think that's why I loved it so much. But Emily Henry, you can't really go wrong. There's not a lot of emotional depth in these. Yes, it does touch on grief. This one does touch on grief a little bit more than this one. Actually, whoa, hold on. Mom died. Mom died. Dad died. Mom died. Maybe I'm sensing a theme that I didn't even realize we're discovering together. Anyway, these do have recent death of family members, and this one deals with that grief a little bit more. This one really kind of doesn't deal with the grief that much, in my opinion. But she just delves into the emotion and the human aspects really well. So I think this is a good, if you normally read lit fic and you want to go into some more romance, or if you want to try romance, this is a good place to start. Another good place to do that if you're lit fic but want to kind of dip your toe into romance. Not Simon. Abby Jimenez. Yours truly by Abby Jimenez is fantastic for that. Yours truly deals with a character with anxiety and also a character that just, oh, homie's been through a lot, and I love those characters. So romance was I got a little bit carried away with it because I have so many strong opinions on Emily Henry. But these are great fluffy light reads. I love them. They're good palate cleansers. So much fun. Uh, just nothing too serious. Like it's a rom com. It's like a summer beach movie. Like don't expect too much from it. I'm sorry, but that's just how I feel. Um, from there, I think I want to go steer back into mysteries and thrillers. Um, I chose some quick reads. I'm going to start with Freedom McFadden. I think she's a great intro back into thrillers because she was my intro back into thrillers. Specifically, well, not this book. I read The Locked Door, which was a really interesting one. But I've come to realize now that I've read more. She was the second author I read outside of ACOTAR when I started reading in general. And back in 2021, when I graduated from college and I started reading again, she was one of the first authors I read, and she was so much fun. They're quick reads. They are like zoom done. um this one was really interesting to me. I really liked this one a lot. My friend also read it and she liked it too. Actually, two of my friends have read it and they both liked them. So they're a quick, easy read. Do I think all of Freedom McFadden is great? No. No, I don't. Do I think this book is good? I think this book is really good. I think The Locked Door was pretty good. I think this is better. um I did tell my sister-in-law that if personally, I didn't think the second and third book in the series was worth it. I really didn't. I would say this is a great one because if you read the first book and you like the first book, but you're not really interested in moving on, you don't even have to read the other two. I think this is a great standalone. I think you could read it as a standalone, and it's a great standalone, and that's it, and you're done. In fact, that's what I would recommend because I really didn't like the second one, and the third one was fine, but I really didn't like the second one. But it's a good intro into mysteries and thrillers. Another good one is Strange Pictures, mainly because it was interesting. It is a translated book too, so if you want to get into translated books or books written in other languages, this one is Japanese. It was originally written in Japanese and translated to English, and it was just it was kind of fun, kind of trippy a little bit. But it's also one of the first books I've read in a while that includes pictures in the book. Like there's actual, they're not illustrations, they are pictures. Like the author is referring to pictures in this book. And it was an interesting read. It was pretty predictable, not gonna lie, which is why I think it's a good one. Like you go, oh yeah, okay, I can solve this one. I was able to put it together fairly quickly. Um, but it was a fun, quick read. It was a good mystery. My friend has Strange Houses, which is it's not like a sequel to it. It's another book in the series. It's a different set of stories or a different story. Um, but I'm excited to do a book exchange with her because this was a lot of fun, and she said Strange Houses was really good, and I'm excited to see the other one. Okay, so another one that is a good thriller slash mystery is None of This Is True by Lisa Jewell. I thought this was so interesting. So the main character has a podcast, and she meets someone with the same birth, like on her birthday dinner, she meets somebody else with the same birthday, and she invites her onto her podcast, and it kind of just goes from there. Like as we're going through the woman's life story, the woman being the person invited onto the podcast. It was twisty. It was fun. It was also a little bit predictable, but I read these so fast that I'm okay with it being predictable. I thought it was a great intro. I thought it was a great intro to mysteries and thrillers. Another one that's not on here is The Woman on the Train. I read that one on Kindle, uh, so I don't have the physical copy, but I think it was Sadie Hawkins or Sally Hawkins. Sally Hawkins. I don't know. The Woman on the Train was really good. I hope I'm saying that right. Y'all trust me. It's okay. We're fine. So if you're new to thrillers, those are good ones. Mysteries. Another one. We're gonna leave you for last. Horror. So my two biggest genres are sci-fi fantasy and horror. Those are the ones that I read the most, but mostly sci-fi fantasy. If you are trying to dip your toe into horror, you're not sure if you're ready to dive right in, but you don't know where to start because you don't want to start with something that's going to like throw you off or be too gory. I feel like these three are good places, good entry points. I'm going to leave that one to the end. I'm going to start with Tender is the Flesh. This one is a little bit of a controversial for a lot of different reasons. But if you're just curious about the horror genre and you want to know if you can do it, this one was more, to me, it was more psychological than it was horror. Like, yes, like it's about cannibalism. Yes, it's about people eating people. So, but it's not gory, if that makes sense. There may be a couple scenes here and there, but it's more of the creepy factor and more of like the dystopian societal impact than it is actual eating of people, if that makes sense. So I thought there are people that didn't care about this, like the characters. That's totally valid. I can see where that comes from. Do I think it's the best book written ever? No. It's another translated book too. I'm just realizing. Yeah. So I think the author is it's translated from Spanish, I think. I can't remember where she's from. It could be Spain. She could be Spain. Argentine. Arg- Arg- Argentina. She's Argentinian. um, but it was a really interesting read. I don't think it was a I don't think it was a groundbreaking book. I thought it was a fun read. I really enjoyed reading it, but after some time to reflect, I'm like, yeah, it's pretty good. I think it's a good starter book for horror if you're into that, or if you want to get into that. Another one that ah, I love this one. If you need a little bit more of a lighter horror, I can't believe I just said that, light horror, as in some levity, as in a little bit of comedy to it. Grady Hendrix is your guy, specifically Horror Store. I'm a vibe person. I am a campy, like go with the theme kind of person. That's just what I am. That's how I do. I like to go things full throttle, right? This is for the vibe. I love it. It's basically Haunted IKEA. I think about this book all the time. I love this book. Again, not super great in the writing, but it's fun and it's unexpected and it can get dark. Um, think, like, oh no, I'm forgetting the name of that movie. Oh my gosh, Poltergeist. Poltergeist, Indian burial ground. The house was built on an Indian burial ground, and so it's haunted by Native Americans, right? That's Poltergeist. That's the movie. This is basically that, but if IKEA was built on an old prison, like a torture prison, um, I you can see like it's set up like an IKEA catalog. It's not IKEA. They reference IKEA in the book, so it's not IKEA, but it's a Scandinavian furniture company. hmm but this is like It's so much fun. In the beginning of every chapter is a different, oh my gosh, it's a different piece of furniture. So that's just like a normal bed. And as you go through, like I said, it was built on an old prison. Well, it was like a torture prison. It was like I don't want to explain too much and give it away, but as you go on, what's a good one to show you guys? So funny to me. Oh, no. Yeah. I should have done this before. I'm so sorry, guys. I mean, it's literally called Gurney, and it's a gurney. Like, it's so much fun. I think one of the pages in here is an actual order form for this. It's just so much fun. So it's a good, funny little dip into horror because there are some torture parts. Well, torture-ish. Yeah, it does get a little bit gory. I think this one was gorier than this one, so it kind of ups the horror aspect of it, but it's still a fairly light read and a very quick read. I read this one in an afternoon, um, but it's so much fun. I just want more people to read it because it's so bizarre and it's one of my favorite books of all time. I love it. It's not my favorite Grady Hendrix book, but I think it's a really good intro to horror book. And the last one that's a good intro to horror is The Cabin at the End of the World by Paul Tremblay. This is the most serious of the three that I have here. So if you want like a serious step into horror, Tremblay is like a huge name in the horror genre in general. But this is a good one. It's also a pretty quick read. I think it's under 350 pages. Yeah, it's like 315, 330 or something like that. That the cabin at the end of the world. So they're told that the world is going to end. Like they something. Oh, why am I forgetting the plot when I need to talk about it? But basically, he does a really good job. I think Paul Tremblay does a really good job of bringing ambiguous endings to stories, which is not always my favorite. And my friend that recommended it, she also does not love ambiguous endings. Um, but he just does it so well. He does it so well, and it's creepy. And there are some scary parts to this book. And I think it's a really good step into horror. Hot take. I am not a huge Stephen King fan. I have not found the Stephen King books that have resonated with me. I have been reading The Shining for a hot second. I refuse to read the book It. I think Misery will probably be the book, but I haven't gotten around to reading it yet. So a lot of people might recommend Stephen King for a step into horror. He's known in the genre. He's like the guy in the genre. Great. If you want to start there, great. I would not start with The Shining. I would not start with The Shining. Um, but this is my in place of Stephen King suggestion. Stephen King did blurb this one, and the other book that I was going to bring out, which was A Head Full of Ghosts, he also blurbed that one. Um, so if that means anything to you, but these I think are great. Dip your toe into horror. Dip your toe into horror book. Something that's more psychological than gory. Something that's got a little humor to it, a lot humor to it, and something that uh, I don't know, it just messes with your mind, man. It's so good. Another one that I'm probably going to reread soon. But these are great beginner horror books, I think. And then we've got let's do romantasy next. So romantasy. So the difference between fantasy and romantasy, in my mind, obviously romantasy has more of a romantic hit to it. Like there's more of an emphasis on romance in these books, but it's also in a fantasy based world. So you're probably going to see a magic system. You're probably going to see a lot of these have war in them. Um, just brings up actually all of the ones that I have feature war, some kind of unrest in their kingdom, country, whatever. Um, Whereas fantasy is going to focus more on the political intrigue and the actual war and more of the plot and the character. Romantasy will kind of focus on that, but we'll mostly focus on romance in my mind. Like we'll start with the first one. One Dark Window by Rachel Gillig. This one is a romantasy. There is definitely romance in it. I actually hot take the second book in the series. It's a duology, so there's two books. The second book is better. It's better. The characters are better written. The characters are better developed. The plot is better thought out. But this was Rachel Gillig's first traditionally published book, so I will give her that. And the magic system is so cool. I've talked about it before. I will talk about it again because it's so cool. It's tarot cards. That's so cool. Like you tap the card and then you get whatever power was from. I love it. It's so cool. Um, big fan of that. So this is a great intro to romantasy. If you're typically a fantasy reader and you want to try throwing a little romance in there, this is great for it. It's not super long. It's easy to understand the magic system and the world in general. She thinks the world through fairly well, which I'm gonna be so honest. I don't think a lot of romantasy authors will put that much thought into their worlds. I'm sorry. I love romantasy. Don't get me wrong. I've got a lot of romantasy, but uh, they focus more on the romance, which is not bad. It's romantasy, romance and fantasy, romantasy. But this is, I think, a good mix of both. There is romance in it, but it's not the only thing in it. So that's a fun one. Two Twisted Crowns, which is the second one, is better. I like the romance in that one better. I like the plot in that one better. It's just better. But this is a really good one to introduce you to the world. I'm yapping too much tonight. Okay. Now the next one is the book series that got me out of my I want to say 10-year long book slump. I didn't read almost at all throughout high school. A little bit through middle school too. A Court of Thorns and Roses. There is a lot to be said about this book series, but it is a great romantasy. It is a good way to get you interested in reading. I I have so much respect for this series in general because of how it's kind of a controversial author for a lot of different reasons. Um, but it got me hooked on reading. It got me interested in reading. It did what it was supposed to do as a hook. And the first book did what it was supposed to do. I don't have any issues with this first book in the series. In fact, I probably 6 and 7 were just announced. The book 6 and book 7 were just announced. I'm probably going to reread this in preparation for 6 and 7. Uh, is it for how do I say this? It's a commitment. That's how I'll say it. It's a commitment. It is a long series. If I'm being honest, a lot of romantasy are commitments. This one is a great one too because it's only 2 books long. That doesn't happen very often. I was trying to find shorter book series. This is not a short book series. It's not. It's currently there are 5 books out, and I think I don't even know how many in total they're going to be. I know for sure there's going to be 2 more because they were announced earlier this year. I don't know in total how many books we're going to be at, which is why I'm. I think this is a great first book. This is a great series to get you interested in longer book series, longer romantasy series. It's not my favorite romantasy right now. Actually, I'm reading my favorite romantasy right now, but the books are all really long, and the first book honestly is so cringy. I'm not even going to mention it right now because I don't think an intro to a genre should be okay, it's really good, but hear me out in this first book. This one is good from the first book. This one is good from the first book. I do like the second one better, but it's good from the first book. That's what an intro to a genre should be. Once you kind of understand the tropes a little bit more, once you understand how to read the genre, because you do read different genres in different ways, you have different expectations. Once you understand that, then you can start getting into the okay, hear me out book series. So this one is not an okay, hear me out. These are good books, good intro books too. The other one might surprise some people that know me because it was a hate read when I read it. Heartless Hunter. The book is not the reason it was a hate read. The hype around the book is the reason it was a hate read. When this book came out, I think it was last year, 2 years ago. Yeah, it was 2 years ago. When this book came out, everybody was like, "Oh my god, this is the best book I've ever read! Oh my god, it's so good!" No, it's not. It's not, and I stand by that. And I'm getting passionate about it. It is not the best book I've ever read. However, it's a good romantasy book. It's a good toe into the genre book, just like these books, right? Is it the best I've ever read? No. Was it a decent read? I was biased when I read this book. The second book was a lot better. It was a lot better. Um, that's why I am going to put this one on here. It's a good way to get you interested. It's a really interesting magic system. I didn't think the character work was super great, and I think that was my main gripe with it because it was more plot based than character based. Um, but it's got some romance in it. There's a teeny tiny bit of a baby love child triangle, but not really. Um, and it was just a fun, quick read. If you take out my bias, I went in with the wrong mindset, but I can understand why a lot of people like this book series, which is why I will recommend it to people. I just can't see myself rereading it. Maybe I will, because I did like the second book. So maybe I'll give it another shot with a nicer mindset. But I think these are great candidates for stepping into the romantasy genre because these two are not long and they are all easy to digest. They're easy to understand the worlds. If you're not typically, if you're a romance reader that wants to step into fantasy, these are great for that. If you're a fantasy reader that wants to try it with a little bit of romance, if you're typically a fantasy reader, I'm not sure if these would be great just because I'm currently reading Throne of Glass and I think she writes that world better than she writes ACOTAR. Um, so I don't know if that is a great step over into it. Uh, but I think they're great for romantasy as a genre. I think they're good representations of romantasy. So yeah, then we're gonna go into. I'm gonna leave my favorite genre for the end. So we're gonna do sci-fi next. Now I will say my caveat for this one, or my disclaimer for sci-fi, is I am still relatively new to sci-fi. This year actually is when I've started dipping my toes into sci-fi, which is why I think these are great examples or great representations of intro to sci-fi as a primarily fantasy reader. So the first one is actually a YA book, but I have no issues with YA. The Hunger Games is one of my favorite series of all time. The Maze Runner. This one is a little bit more fantasy than it is science fiction in the first book. As we go on, it gets more sciencey, gets more science fictiony. But I do think it's a really solid series. I recently learned that I have not read the whole series. I thought it was a trilogy. Nope, I'm wrong. I think there's 4 books. Actually, I think there's like 6 books, but I think there's 4 to complete the arc. So I'm gonna have to be rereading these so I can get to the end of this. But I think they are really interesting, really fun reads, and the movies are great too. Dylan O'Brien, come on, dude. I love him. I love him. It's great, but not super sciencey at the beginning. It gets more sciencey as you go on. However, if you're trying to get into the genre, this is a great entry point. And I also think YA helps it as a good entry point. It kind of makes it a little easier to digest. Another one that I will not shut up about, I love it so much, Project Hail Mary. So this one, aside from being just a fantastic book in general, I think it's a really, really good intro to sci-fi because of how well Andy Weir writes sci-fi. He does a really good job. Like, yes, it is nerdy. It's more science heavy in the sci-fi area, but I think he does it really, really well. One thing I think he does, I read, maybe it was like a social media post or something, um, or maybe I watched a video. I don't know. One thing he does a really, really good job with is slowly introduces you and slowly, without you even realizing, makes you like super advanced on a topic. So, what I mean is, he starts by breaking down simple terms. Astrophage is like the big bad in this. It's a bacteria that's eating the sun. Astrophage, he explains astrophage and he says it in kind of simple terms like he's introducing a topic to a class. He is a teacher. Hello. And as you go through, he slowly starts to build your knowledge and up your knowledge until at the end, he's saying these complex phrases with this very particular specific vocabulary to astrophage and Ryland Grace's journey through this. And you're just like picking it up like it's no problem at all. And he does it so well. So I think that's a really good way to get you into um, science fiction in general, but also I think it's a really good book to take some of that anxiety out of, oh, I'm not smart, not the I'm not smart, although I have had that thought of I'm not smart enough to read sci-fi. I can read fantasy, but I'm not smart enough to read sci-fi. I don't understand the science side of it. This is a great way to prove me wrong. This was an excellent way to do it. And this actually was what made me want to start reading more science fiction. So there you go. These are good ones. And then the last one, I'm actually not even finished with yet. I'm only a third of the way through it, but it's Red Rising by Pierce Brown. I didn't think that this was sci fi. I thought this was fantasy, but it's set on Mars. It's dystopian. It's more sciencey. It's like, I shouldn't make this. I don't like the comparison, but I'm going to make the comparison. It's like the Hunger Games, but in space. Like that's an apt description. I don't like that description because of my obsession with the Hunger Games, my decades long obsession with the Hunger Games. And it's ruined, not ruined, I'm still enjoying myself, but it definitely has given me a different way to like view this. It's given me a lens to read this through, but it's got a lot of those dystopian, like, trial base, I guess, sure, uh, from the Hunger Games, but in Red Rising. So obviously, I'm only a third of the way through. I'm not done with it yet, but it's more sciencey. This one is more sciencey. I think this one is more true science fiction, but it's in that direction. It's a good, like I said, tiptoe into that world. It's not complete sci-fi. It's not totally science fiction, but it's a good lean into it. If you're typically more fiction or fantasy based, it's a good science fantasy kind of thing. Yeah, science fantasy. That's what I would call it. Um, Now, I understand that only one of these is true sci-fi. I get that. But these are intro to the genres. I am introducing myself into sci-fi. I've heard Hyperion. I can't remember who that author is, but that one is pretty true sci-fi. I have Annihilation. I think that one is more sci-fi, although I don't know if that's sci-fi or if that's horror. I'm going to be exposing myself more to this genre, but I think these are good starting points for sci-fi. And then last, my love, I've been yapping this long to get to my favorite genre, fantasy. Now, when making this list, compiling my collection of books, did I want to grab all of my favorite fantasy books? Yes, I did. I wanted to grab Mistborn and put it right there front and center. I wanted to grab, there's so many that I wanted to grab. This Simon Jimenez, The Spear Cuts Through Water would have been a great one. I loved that book. However, those are not beginner fantasy. They're not beginner fantasy. I understand that. So I did not grab those. I love those. If you want to talk about those, I will talk about them as much as you want. Probably more than you want. But they're not beginner. So I specifically looked at my bookshelf and I said, what are some good beginner fantasies? If you don't normally read the genre, where do we begin? And I think a great place to begin is Piranesi by Susanna Clarke. This one, I am not going to give details. I'm not going to give details on this one because I think you need to go in blind. I'm firm in that stance. However, it is beautiful writing, very whimsical. You have to really go along with it. It's not very long. It's under 300 pages. Um, and if you can speed read, if you can get through it quick, I think that's the best way to do it. I read it. I did not get through it quickly. When I read this, I read it in about a week, but it was a really crazy, hectic week. Um, However, I can see the appeal of reading it all in one run. When I do my reread of this, it will be all in one run. Um, it's so good. It is everything I want a fantasy to be. It has beautiful prose, lyrical prose. It is very atmospheric. You feel like you're really discovering this world with Piranesi, and it's just so good. Ah, ah. I think this is a good one. If you want to know, if you want to try lyrical, whimsical, fantastical world fantasy, this is a great place to start. Another one is I couldn't grab Mistborn, so I did grab another Brandon Sanderson, Tress of the Emerald Sea. This one is just this is cozy fantasy. This was fun, low stakes. She's she's doing the best. I love Tress. This was so much fun. This is basically Brandon Sanderson said himself. If you take the Princess Bride, but have Buttercup go after Wesley, I love it. It's such a fun read. It's relatively quick. It's about 360 pages, so longer than some books, but not as long as most fantasy. Definitely one of the shortest Brandon Sanderson books of all time. Um, but it's so fun. It's I don't know if this is YA, but it feels YA. Um, I don't know. It's like a little it's a warm hug in a book. I love this book, and I think it's a great way to get you into fantasy too. Uh, it's a good like oh yeah, this is fun. I could read more. Yes, it's not even my favorite Brandon Sanderson, but I think it's a great intro book. Don't laugh at me for the next one. Don't laugh at me for the next one. I don't have the first books in the series. My dad is reading it right now, so he's got it at his house. Um, Dungeon Crawler Carl. Don't laugh at me. Take that judgment away from here. I do talk about it all the time, but I am seeing it in action bring people into the genre. It is happening right now. It what makes it I think a really good intro to lit RPG. This was my first lit RPG, and I'm having a lot of fun with it. I am currently a third of the way through. Yeah, a third of the way through. Sorry, the book is sitting right there. The latest book in the series, number 8. Um, it's childish humor, yes, but it's humorous. It's quick. It's very fast paced. They are longer books, so that might turn some people off, but they go so fast you don't even notice. You don't even notice. I promise you. Um, but he also does. Matt Dinniman does a really good job of starting off relatively low stakes and slowly building the stakes as you go. So the first book, it really just deals with Princess Donut and Carl. Well, Carl and Princess Donut. And they're the ones that are affected. Nobody else is really affected. Same thing here. He slowly raises the stakes and raises the group of people affected by Carl's actions in each book. And it's so good. It's so good. I don't know what else I can say. It's fantastic for bringing somebody into a genre. They're easy reads despite the size, they are quick reads. The first book is a little bit longer than this one, I think, because it's building the world. Um, I did not, I think when you look up this book on Goodreads, it puts science fiction first. I don't call this one science fiction. I think it's pretty heavily in a fantasy. That's why I'm calling it a fantasy book. But it's a great way to introduce you if you want something fun, comedic, but slowly starts to build. I just, it's everything I love in a book. Everything I love in a book. I will talk about it till I'm blue in the face. I love it. I love it so much. Are these my favorite books of all time? Yes. No, well, yes. Not my favorite book of all time, but great introduction into the genre. Um, so, whew, I think that's everything that I have for tonight. Oh my goodness. Um, do you agree that these are good intros to the genres? Do you have any suggestions? If I'm trying to break into the world, if I want another nonfiction, if I want more lit fic, those are the ones that I read the least. Not because I dislike them, just because I don't have as much experience. I don't read them as often. If you have any suggestions, let me know. If you have any suggestions for what I should read next for sci-fi, I I'm open. I'm interested. I like to experience stories. I like to experience different worlds. Lots of different worlds going on here. Do you have any recommendations? Have you read any of these books? Do you agree or disagree? Let me know. Happy reading, guys.